You are the power of this cosmos. You are pure intelligence. You are unspeakable beauty. You are in perfect harmony with the entire cosmos. Stars and unknown stars, sun and moon, air and light, the beautiful plant kingdom of Mother Nature, the waters. This is your context. Male-female collaboration in same-sex or opposite-sex intimacy, that power is yours. And you're allowed to have that. Welcome to the Heart of Yoga podcast, everybody. You are so welcome to be here because Neil and I have known each other for some years now, and we really love each other. And we wanted to have this chat so you can hear it. So you're so welcome. And Neil, you're so welcome in my life. And I just want to start saying to you, Neil Boyd, farmer of Canada, extraordinary person, Yogi. I find it curious and delightful that this relationship that we find ourselves in seems to be indestructible. You know, there's a deeply rooted friendship, maybe capital F friendship, that is very, that has grown on us. It's just come sort of naturally. I say it's a siddhi, it's a gift of yoga, but there seems to be a very comfortable, very warm and radiant friendship between you and me that I, for one, value very much. And it's just curious that it's there. For no apparent reason, it sneaked up on us. Don't you reckon?
How do you think that happened, Mark?
It's the mystery of the universe.
It is a mystery. but things like that happen, where you're not expecting something and something turns out and you're not really sure why, but you feel good about it. And I agree, Mark, we don't see each other. I think maybe we've seen each other 4 or 5 times or something like that, but there is a connection, and I'm grateful to be able to know you. I mean, holy man, we're sort of the same, but we're sort of different, like your walk of life is, certainly a little different than mine, but at the same time, I think we share a lot of the same kind of thoughts. I think, we're both probably sensitive people. Everybody is sensitive, I'm not saying that we're not, but something it makes it comfortable between when we talk, and I appreciate that. I really do. I mean, for me to be able to talk to a person like you halfway around the world, and you're really respected in what you do, Mark. You're one of the only teachers around, that have been taught by Krishnamacharya, and I feel pretty darn honored, to be able to know you. Honestly, I do. And so I take that really well.
Thank you, Neil. One of the things is that I received some information from Krishnamacharya that he received from his gurus, his guru parampara, from his teachers. They go back and back and back. He can actually trace his family back to the 9th century, Nata Muni.
Wow.
And then his great Acharya guru, Ramanuja Acharya of the 10th century, one of these great Vedanta reality realizes. And so in my young life, I was very struck by who they were, these people, and what they were bringing forth into the world from the wisdom traditions. So I did my best to sort of gather it up and understand it and practice it and so forth. And then somewhere along the line, you know, in the decades that pass, you turn up, and I was able to do my best to give these principles of practice and understanding that Krishnamacharya brought forth from the wisdom tradition and gave to his son, gave to me,
Right.
and I give them to you.
Thank you.
And you did them. You did these practices of yoga adapted to who you are, to your body type, your age, your health, your lifestyle, your culture. And you did it.
Absolutely.
And you went, wow, you know, like there's something here.
Yeah.
Something that works. And so because I was the one that gave that to you, you were very grateful, it seems.
Yeah.
I gave you a nice Christmas present wrapped in a pink bow. And you went, wow, I really like you.
Well, I know what you mean. Like, it's not as if it's a whole bunch of practices and movements and stuff like that that you have to memorize. I didn't find that. I found more of a, you know, just kind of going with how you feel, you know, and so you move in that direction. I mean, you did give me a kind of like, I suppose, the principles or the basic moves, I guess, and then I was able to go from there. But I, you know, by being with you and studying with you, I found out that it's, you know, the practice of yoga, you know, is really a, you know, it's a mind, body, spirit. So it's not only body, you know, it's after you practice your yoga, you just feel better, you know, and it's not just physically feeling better, but I mean, you're just, I don't know, something, your heart feels better or something like that. You smile a little bit more, you know, you could move a little bit more, your mood is a little bit better, you know, and those are the kind of things that I think that I got from, you know, studying with you. And so, you know, I appreciate that, you know, like after, for instance, spending some time with you, maybe a couple hours or whatever, you know, and oh, hi, you know, and then we'd go and have something to eat, you know, and I felt like I was still in that same breathing, you know, and so, you know, like a steady, calm breathing, you know, that's kind of what I got from you too. And you know, when you're in that mood, you know, you're you know, there's less stress, you know, you feel better. And so what I kind of take from it is that it's more of it's a lifestyle, you know. And so basically in the short time that I've studied with you, it's almost like a lifestyle change. I don't want to get too fluffy or nothing like that on this, but you know, you will feel it, you know. You know what I mean, Mark? Yeah.
I do know what you mean, because I have certainly had that experience with my own teachers, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And but I also, you know, was confessing to you that I feel the same back to you. You know, my thoughts, thinking of you, my memory of you, my reverie of you personally, and in those meetings that we had over some years, it was always very warming to my heart and soul and body.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Desikachar, my teacher, would say that his best teachers were his students. Most important students. So it's of course, it's a two-way street of,
I guess,
mutual affection, see?
Yeah.
Mutual.
Well, I think that's what makes a good teacher, Mark. I mean, you're able to keep doing this, you know, and people like you and you like people, you know, and that's the connection, and that's what yoga is all about, and that's what makes you a good teacher. And
oh, thank you.
I mean that.
Thank you. I mean, I got very much from the demonstration of both Krishnamacharya and Desikachar and their dear friends, Jiddu Krishnamurti and Yogi Krishnamurti, who I became close with in this circle of friendship. What I got was this statement that the teacher is no more than a friend and no less than a friend. The teacher is not a position, is not a knower, not a senior person, not an authority, not an identity of social identity, of status, not even a personal identity. That's not the teacher. The teacher is just the force of nurturing that is inherent to Mother Nature, to life. And this is certainly some rare examples came upon me in my life that made an impact, and both intellectually understanding that equation and emotionally understanding it, that as soon as you have positioning, this presumption that somebody is senior to the other, you are higher than somebody and you are lower than somebody, all that nonsense of society, then a teaching function, yoga transmission then happens, and not until then.
And that goes with just our lives too, Mark. I mean, if you treat somebody that you're over the head of them, there's not that same connection. If you can meet them in the middle, even just the way you mentioned about you being a teacher, you're no more than a friend, no less than a friend. If you're like that throughout your day to other people, it's I feel like there's better vibes around. You get, it just makes your day better too. And so I think that is important, and people will appreciate you better, the teacher better too, And the other thing, when, I don't do this every day, that's for doggone sure. I'm a farmer, I'm all by myself out in the tractor. So I'm thinking to myself, oh boy, I'm going to be talking to Mark. And then I thought to myself, well, you know what? He taught me, he told me, or he suggested that, that about the teachers no more than a friend, no less than a friend, and it kind of relaxed me, you know what I mean? So now, like, it's not talking to a friend, and so I think that goes on with our lives too. I think, you know what I mean?
Exactly, and in our world, in our civilization, as it's progressed, so-called progressed. It's almost impossible to imagine that their spiritual transmission or wisdom transmission can occur in this way of no hierarchy, of no position, of no point of view, no seniority, because that is the standard way that the world is working in all areas. It's how religion works, how spirituality works, even within yoga and, the conventional context of yoga is this presumption of the special person, and implying that everybody else is not special and trying to become special in some sort of arbitrary effort of teaching whatever's given, That's the usual life churning on. And for you, so even you sitting in your tractor and your old mind kicks in, oh shit, I've got to talk to Mark Whitwell. So all that bullshit that we live with, as if anybody could possibly be higher than you or lower than you. It's all just contrived, made up misery. The mind.
It feels better. It feels better when you think of it that way, though, isn't it?
So we have stumbled into this spiritual transmission where it's simply, two people of mutual affection, equal, egalitarian, no position, no point of view, nobody special over against someone. Yogi called that the social dynamic of disempowerment, that idea, and we've all been disempowered. It's been put in our DNA.
Well, they say that there's no use taking sides because we're all in this together.
Well, what my affection for you, Neil, has partly been because of this Mother Earth homely farmer language and personality that you have and society that you're from. And you've been able to interpret the teachings that that I've said to you in your own language, in your own way, and then pass that on to your community. And why I wanted to talk to you today is because in this sort of yoga demographic that we're in, of the kinds of people that are interested in yoga, you're not really in that demographic. You're a farmer.
No, no.
From the plains.
No, you're no, you're right about that. I mean, after I learned a little bit about yoga, I was kind of like a closet yogi, like a closet person who studied yoga, I guess you'd call it, because it wasn't mainstream, that's for sure. And it's getting to be more all the time, and I think that more people are kind of curious about it. I mean, it's still the ladies who are practicing it mostly, and the guys, they're starting to get a little curious about it, because of course we're getting into the age where you get aches and pains, and I guess sometimes you get a bit of things go sideways and you get kind of discouraged or depressed and that kind of stuff. And I think that probably yoga is probably something that people think about that they can do, but you're right. I was having to go outside our community to study yoga. That's how I had to first start it, and in a kind of a way, I'm glad I did, because I met, people like you and people from the Feather Pipe and so on. And so I've got some really good connections, or nice connections, good people that I actually have been keeping in touch with. And so you keep up with that same sort of, thoughts about, doing your yoga and so on like that. So it's getting more mainstream, but at first, no, it wasn't.
Well, you had a lot of courage.
Yeah, well, it took quite a bit, I'll tell you what, it was actually my wife that suggested that. I never knew anything about yoga, and it was that my body was starting to get sore, my back and different things, and walking. It was just a lot of work that I was doing. We were calving in the wintertime, and you're picking up calves right from the ground up, 100 pounds, and walking them out and trying to keep ahead of the cow that was on your back and all that kind of stuff, and it was just a lot of work, I still remember, a calf dying, and I was giving it mouth to mouth because I didn't know what else to do, and they got really sharp teeth. And I come into the house, and my glasses were broken. I had bite marks on both sides of my cheeks, and poor calf died anyways. But I mean, it's all almost adrenaline, that keeps you going, and late nights and hard work, and it tires you out. Yeah. Yeah. So, I think that's some of the things that I had to. I mean, we had a loss in the family that didn't help either, and so it's kind of looking for, I don't know, maybe some spiritual help or something like that. I don't know, but I think those are kind of the reasons why I was really connected to yoga after I started it. I'll tell you what, I didn't know it had anything to do with making you feel better as far as your head and that kind of stuff. I thought it was all in the body. And so I started to do yoga. It was we got an opportunity to go to Maui, and it had to do with actually bird hunting, believe it or not. Not hunting birds in Maui. I mean, there's a lot of geese up here, and so people hunt geese, and so sometimes as a favor, that's what happened. We ended up in Maui, and so I'll tell you what. I went to I thought, wow, this is a good place to have a look and see if I could find what's this all about and all that. And so I walk up and down the street and show here there was a yoga studio, and I walked by and I thought, I'm not into this here yet. And so, and then the next day, and I think it was about third day, and one of the yoga teachers were outside. And so I think she maybe said hi or something, or maybe how can I help you, and that kind of thing. And so I just said, well, I'm just interested in yoga. Like, what do you do? I don't know, what do you dress like? And when is time, all that kind of stuff. And she said, well, I don't know, why don't you just come with whatever's comfortable and come at a certain time? And so I did. And so I was able to do, I was in the back, I didn't really know what I was expected to do or anything like that. But you know what, I'll tell you, Mark, I went through, this and that stretch and that and this but at the end, when we lay down in Shavasana, or corpse pose, that's when I felt good. You know what I mean? I can turn upside down and do all these exercises and all that kind of stuff anywhere. It's the lying down that I missed. You know what I mean? A gym class or something like that. And so, anyways, it's the lying down part. And after I was quiet, in that position, I felt really, really good, and I actually didn't want it to stop. And so when it finally did stop, and we all said so long and so on, then I wanted to have that feeling again, and I couldn't actually explain what it was. But that is really what in the end what kept me going on yoga. That's why I wanted more, not necessarily for the stretching and all that kind of stuff, but I think that leads up to feeling a little bit more relaxed when you are in that pose, that corpse pose, the Shavasana. Here I am telling you all of this. I can't believe it.
Receiving it.
Anyway, so yeah, and so I don't know, like I ended up, I liken it so much that we went back the following year, and so I would take a morning class and a night class. I wanted to do more and more of it, so that I could go home and, be able to know what the heck I'm doing when I get home. Because, at that time, there was no YouTube. It wasn't very long ago, but there was no YouTube and all that kind of stuff. Not that I know of anyways. And so that's why I wanted to more of it. And that's why in the end, or not in the end, but that's why I discovered like Feathered Pike, because I was really looking for someplace I could go for a week and learn more about things, and so, and then after Feathered Pipe, I went to Ojai and I met you. And I'm still connected with Feathered Pipe, and I sure wish that sometime we could meet again in Ojai. But I'll tell you what I'm doing all the talking, Mark.
Oh, that's
okay?
the idea. That's the idea. You talk.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so and then after a while, what happened is I'll have to give you credit, Mark, for giving me a daily practice. And so you tricked me. Okay, you did. So you said, okay, 7 minutes a day. You do 7 minutes a day. You do it for, how long did you say? 30 days or something like that. You
40.
do it for 30 days.
It was good
40.
If it was good enough for Christ,
30 was.
If Christ could be in the desert for 40 days and do his tapas, it's okay for you and me to do our 7 minutes of tapas a day.
Okay, well, 30 was enough anyways, but 40, I went into 40, I kept going. So, you know what, I still do it, but like the reason I say you tricked me is that you can do practice in 7 minutes. And so that's why, you're saying to yourself in the morning, okay, I know I'm busy, but I have got 7 minutes. And so I would practice, and maybe it would be 9, maybe it'd be 10 minutes, but whatever I did. And so, but the longer I did it and the better I felt, I'm not making this up. The longer I stay in my practice. And so every morning I get up and I have a little routine, I guess I do, I have a cup of coffee and that kind of stuff. And then I go into, I've kind of got a space where I got mat and so on. And so I go there and I almost feel like, oh man, it feels good when you get to that little space with your mat, you know what I mean? And then I get there and then I begin my yoga. I'll tell you what I do. Do you want to know what I do?
I do.
Okay, so what I do, I put these AirPods on, and I put some music on, some music that I like, and it's fairly upbeat music, and I don't know if that's the right thing to do, but it works for me anyways, and so I kind of do a practice that is basically the one that you taught me, and then I thread in or I weave in little bits of things that might be bothering at the time. We'll just say a knee or maybe a nerve up in my back or my shoulder or something like that. And so that's what I'll do, and I've actually learned a few things from a physiotherapist, and that's those given me. And so with this music on, I start to do these things, and pretty soon, I find myself, that I hadn't really thought of, like I'm pulling myself this way, and what it is it just, that's what I needed, like that's my tightness or something, you know what I mean? And it felt so good, so you keep on doing it, and pretty soon you're doing something different. That's what happens if you can practice every day with a home practice. And I kind of hope that, that's what, will, I guess you'll get a studio too, that's fine. But anyways, that's what I like anyways, is doing it at home. And then at the end, of course, I sit, I lie for a little bit, but I sit for a little bit, and then when I'm done, I'm ready to meet the day, and I've been doing this every morning, and I can't tell you how better or how good I feel. I shouldn't say better, but I feel pretty good. Like you still get those days, that, oh man, where'd that come from? Like a little tweak in my knee or my ankle or something like that. It comes and goes. But you know what, Mark, that I think of is that I actually smile in, not physically smile, but my heart smiles in to that area that might be a little bit bruised or hurting. And then I'll kind of breathe into that area. And so that I don't get mad at myself for having that little bit of an injury. It's just nature, or it's just, that's what happens. And I use the breath. I still remember asking you at one of our sessions, I said, well, why do we breathe? Like what's the deal with this breath thing, And so I took a wild guess and I said, you know what, maybe it's getting oxygen into these areas that need healing or whatever you call it. I can't remember what you said. I think you nodded, but anyways, that's the way I feel anyways. And so I don't get mad at my body. I don't get, I know that it's going to happen somewhere else tomorrow, but okay. So that's the dealing with the physical part, but the mental part, I think, is the one that feels sensitive to the body. And so that kind of has to go together, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What do you think? Yeah.
Unitary movement of body, breath, and mind.
That's it.
In life itself.
That's it.
Yeah.
In life itself. Yeah, because those are the things that you carry on for the rest of the day, doesn't it? You're right. Yeah.
It has implication into your entire relational condition of the body mind to everything, to the farm, to the animals, to your friends and family, to the community. Continuity of relatedness body, breath,
Yeah.
and relationship in that order.
Yeah.
And this is
Yeah.
what's so lovely for me to hear, Neil, is you as a farmer
Mm-hmm.
who's lived a lifetime of effort, of struggle on the farm, you know,
Yeah.
in the society as a
Yeah.
agriculturalist, and all of that
Yeah.
that that effort and pain involved there. Now finding this, what is yoga, that is what is actual yoga from the wisdom traditions, and then you actually practicing it for yourself. This is the jewel of our conversation that I want people
Mm-hmm.
to hear and know about, of how easy it is to actually practice. And as
Mm-hmm.
Krishnamacharya would always say, not just any yoga, but the yoga that is right for you. That is
Yeah.
your direct intimacy with life itself, capital L, the power of the cosmos
Yeah.
that brought
Yeah.
us here in the first place. That
Yeah.
one reality. Your yoga is the direct embrace of that one reality that is all life.
Yeah.
And that you have
It,
been able to do that without necessarily, you know, sophisticated language or philosophy or sophisticated practices, rather a straightforward practice of the whole body moving and breathing and synchronicity and the beautiful
right.
rhythmic patterns of the breath.
Right.
And I want
Yeah. I
go ahead.
go ahead. Well, I was just gonna say, in that space that I have, that I've got my mat in, you know, like I started off by having figurines and that kind of stuff that I wasn't really attached to, you know. Maybe some of them were, um, anyways. Like I've been to India a couple times. I brought things back, you know, that kind of stuff, and it's kind of I don't know what's the word for it. It's changed. So in other words, I've got like a picture of a man riding a horse, you know, in some hills. You know, it's more that is closer to me. You know, it's not that the figurines have or there's anything wrong with that. It's just that I do believe that yoga is something that is, like you said, personal to each one of us. And so now, what better way of doing than making that space where you're comfortable with, so that you can understand better. And it's just like you said, you know, like, no, I don't know all of the names of all of the asanas. I know there's Sanskrit and stuff like that, you know, but I, I'm not sure that I guess when you're starting yoga, it's fine, you know, you can recognize those words and that kind of stuff. But really, when it comes down to it, it's how yoga feels to you. So whatever that might be, you know, maybe it's mantras, maybe it's different things like that. Like I said, you know what, I don't think there's a wrong yoga. Honestly, I don't. You know, like, you know, or I've you know, anybody that's interested in it, I really give credit, you know, because there's a chance that it might go farther. Maybe you'll leave it for a little while and you'll catch up again. I'm not sure, but I will say, just for from my sake, anyways, that I really believe that anybody who tries it, and farmers anywhere in the world, it doesn't matter whether you're small or big or anything like that, you know, give it a try. You know, the other thing, Mark, is that yoga is actually, you know, related quite a bit to what we do. We grow things, and one thing I'll tell you, a little funny thing that my buddy told me. I told him I was going to talk to my teacher, my yoga teacher. Anyways, he said, so, well, yoga's got lots in common. They both can get you twisted up. I think that's funny, eh? But anyway, so, like farming, you're growing things. You're, you know, and so there's a, you know, there's a kind of a connection to the soil, connection to plants, connection to animals. And of course, with the yoga, you know, you have that same kind of a connection, you know, to, I like what I think anyways, is that if you can look after yourself, you're likely better to be able to look after the farm.
Yeah.
And so maybe that's where yoga comes into it also, or something like yoga, you know what I mean? You can call it whatever you want. I don't know.
Yoga is intimacy with body, breath, and relationship, body, breath, and farm, in that order.
Oh, I like the way you say that.
Yeah, you
I
take care of
do.
your body,
Mhm.
body, mind through this
Mhm.
unitary movement of body, breath, and mind, adapted to your body type,
Mhm.
age, and health. And then that is your participation in the nurturing force that is life itself. And I'm loving what you're
Mhm.
saying because, of course, you farmers, it's all about the nurturing
Yeah.
force of life, bringing, bringing the crops in, reaping the harvest, sowing the crops, waiting. Mother Nature does her
That's right.
thing. The nurturing force of reality itself grows. And then in the time
Yeah,
of life when you're ready, you gather in the crops for
that's
the
right.
nurturing of the people of the world.
Well,
It's all
well,
nurturing,
I
man.
like well, I like the way you put it, and that's pretty charming for sure. I think that the more that farmers or anybody tied to any kind of agriculture can be more sensitive or more closer to the soil, and things growing, the better. You know, like it is its biology. You know, or
Yeah.
so I think that's what you're
Well,
saying. Yeah.
one thing I know is true, being from New Zealand, and New Zealand is all agriculture. It's all about farming. And
It is,
one
yes.
thing I know, sadly, I want to raise, Neil, is that farmers around the world, not just in New Zealand, suffer a great deal of depression and mental health
Yeah,
problems, including
yeah,
suicide
yeah.
around the world.
Right,
And you must have,
right,
I mean, you've
right.
obviously had your stages of suffering, struggle, pain, and
Mm-hmm.
therefore you naturally
Mm-hmm.
sought out what could be helpful to you, and grace came upon you. So you're in a very
Yeah,
fortunate position to receive the grace of the
yeah,
wisdom traditions through this Guru Parampara. And
yeah.
now you're in a position to see the suffering of your colleagues, even your immediate friends in your own small
Mm-hmm.
community. I remember you telling
Mm-hmm.
me that you used to get together and all you guys would talk about was tractors.
Still do.
Yes. Right. Now, slowly, you have something that you want to talk about to your community, don't you? You're really
Yeah.
sincere about this. You're a serious dude, and you
You know,
want
I
to
think what,
communicate this.
yeah, I hear you. And the thing I think maybe is the more you just listen, the more you can connect with somebody. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
If you're doing all the talk and then people will just respond, keep responding. But if you just keep listening,
yeah.
then it do you know what I mean? Your conversation might take a different path. Can I say that? Yeah,
And
yeah. Maybe a more friendlier path. Maybe
you
we won't talk
found
about
through
tractors.
being a friend, being friendly in your
Yeah,
community, and being receptive of others, that you
yeah,
have no doubt learned through the receptivity of your inhalation strength that is
yeah,
utterly receptive. You've become
yeah,
receptive to your friends and family,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and you
I hope so. Yeah. I think that's probably right. That is something that I have gained from yoga. I feel maybe that I've got a little bit more patience. I feel that my values have probably changed a little bit. more towards people than it is to growing bigger, or that kind of thing. Anyways, so like maybe it's more maturing than it is what I've learned, but maybe it's together. I wish there's a lot of things that I knew a long time ago. Don't you?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
And I want to mention that Krishnamacharya would say the best teacher is someone of your own culture and language
Mm-hmm.
and community, right?
Right.
And you
Right.
mentioned this thing about going to India and seeing Hindu deities and so forth, and wondering about Vedic culture and
Mm-hmm.
that other whole culture. But
Yeah.
you've really got it very clear is that yoga must be adapted to the culture of each person, and it's not a matter of migrating somebody to another culture at all.
No. No. No.
So
No. Don't turn. That's right.
you are now in a
Yeah.
position to bring yoga to the farming community of Canada and the US and Australia and New Zealand, for that matter, because it's all, and probably Europe, because it's all the same, monoculture of the Western world,
Yeah.
and bring it to people in a way that is familiar to them, and be able to speak to them in their own cultural values and language that they understand.
Right, right. I know what you mean. Yeah, the slang, the talk, the thinking, the culture. Yeah. I know what you mean. All right.
Yeah.
That's where we have to keep the. Or I mean, it's people understand that better, I guess, if you were going to teach to people, is
Yeah.
just be a friend. I remember, I think it was somebody that mentioned, either you or Eric, that does a good chart would just wait for you to talk, and so it's almost like the teacher waits until he feels what the student is looking for. You know what I mean? And I think that that's probably what you're getting at also with that you teach within your own culture, because you're just easier to understand. I I I like other cultures, I do, and it's fun to learn about them. But it takes a little while to really, really understand them. Maybe you never do. I don't know.
Yeah. I feel it all the time, Neil. I hear stories from India, for example, of very high suicide rates among farmers in India, farmers in New
Right.
Zealand, all around the
Yeah.
world. This the suffering of just work without feeling the work
Yeah.
without understanding.
Yeah, I don't know how to explain it, Mark, but it's there's a certain competitiveness out there that really shouldn't be.
Yeah,
And I think that farmers feel that, and of course, the other thing too is when, they are farming in a second or third or a fourth generation farm, they feel that they have to keep it going, and it's depressing, if you start to have trouble because just either bad luck or maybe a decision or two that went sideways. And so that's what farmers feel. I think in India, I'm not positive, but I think it's a financial thing.
sure.
That they can't make payments on their debt, that kind of stuff. But I, I don't really know. I don't really know how they're doing in India. I know that they work hard. I've seen them there. I've been on their farms, and it's sometimes it's stressful here too. The prices of crops are actually going up, and that's a relief, with all of the things that are going on in the world. It's not a terrible thing to be a farmer right now. I'll tell you that, Mark. Um,
Well, it's
Um,
my prayer for the world that
yeah,
farmers be nurtured.
yeah,
Farmers
well,
are
thank
the
you.
nurturers for the world.
Yeah,
They're the nurturers of plants and animals. And
yeah, thank you.
I want you're just a shining example of a hardworking farmer who was suffering pain in body and mind, who received the nurturing of yoga and began to actually practice and
Hmm.
understand that nurturing is what life is. Life is nurturing.
Hmm.
You are nurtured,
Hmm.
plants are nurtured, and
Hmm.
society is nurtured by the results of your nurturing work. And
Hmm.
that's what it's all about. And
Hmm.
my uh, hope in the pandemics that are upon us that
Hmm.
this good news will be given to the public. And I think you have
Yeah.
a particular role in that because you have become an exception among your international farming colleagues of somebody who's cracked the formula. Right.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, yeah, thanks. Like I was thinking a little bit about it, and as our farm is right now, we don't have any cattle, but I've raised cattle basically all my life. Since I was since I was a kid, because we had 4-H calves, and we did chores after school. Fed pigs, we fed cattle, and all that kind of stuff, and so we were raised with animals, and then we just sold the we haven't got any cattle right now. Just for the last couple of years we haven't, but I'll tell you what, I probably learned more about health and all that kind of stuff from the cattle than I did from books and all that kind of stuff. And you see, I used to go to the auction mart and buy calves, and I'd buy these 400 weight calves, and maybe there's one in one pen, two in another pen. And so you put them all together and you got 200 calves. And the poor things, they didn't know each other. They came from different farms, all that kind of stuff. And now they're shoved all together. You wouldn't believe, Mark, how sick those calves got. Like they'd be good for about 10 days because they'd have that energy that they came from their mothers. And then all of a sudden they'd start getting sick. And for just about a month and a month, or sometimes even longer, that you'd have these sick calves until the time that they seem to get know each other, they and community, and then they start, pretty soon they got better and you're okay. But you know what, and then I started more of a cow calf thing, and so that means that I raised my own we raised our own calves. Now when we took all of the calves that we raised, put them into a pen, they would bawl for their mothers for a while, but guess what, they didn't get sick. They had a community. They were fed, watered the same way as those other ones, but they didn't get sick because they were already in that community. So what it basically is that if you can keep the stress away from those animals, and we're animals too, the likelihood of diseases, because there was all kinds of viruses that we'd get with those cattle. We'd call them shipping fever, and that kind of stuff. But that's what they would get. They'd get viruses. And I think that this is almost like a reset, this pandemic thing. I'm not a doctor or anything like that, or scientist, but I think what it is that we have to start to my goodness, I don't know what it is. I don't want to get fluffy here and say, well, I think we should love each other more,
No,
but
say that.
we have to get along a little bit better. How's
Yeah,
that?
yeah, get
We have to.
man. No, it's good. Here, look, that's a message for the world right now, of course, in the pandemics.
Mhm.
You're it's stress and a lack of relationship that causes low
That's,
immunity,
yep.
that causes illness.
It's totally that, Mark. It is. I think if we can take that example, that things would change. I know that like there's going to be some diseases regardless, but not a pandemic the way it is. You know, like it was coming on. I think I don't know.
Well, I'm glad for one, Neil, that you've finished with farming animals right now
Yeah.
for agriculture and food. I mean, that's a whole study that we could go into, that, you know, animal agriculture is so much the cause of world issue and toxicity on but let's not go.
Well, actually, that's
another conversation. But,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would like to just tell you a little story about a farmer in Australia that I taught. And he and his 5 brothers had each inherited 2,000 acres that they were farming, mainly with cattle. And he came to Fiji and he did a yoga retreat for me, and he started to practice yoga. And about 2 or 3 months into his life as a yogi on the farm, he started hearing Aboriginal didgeridoos in the trees. And he and his wife thought he could see Aboriginal people sitting on the land in the trees, having come back to the land.
I see.
Otherwise being only used as as commodity, as economy only. You know, how much can you plant? How much money can you get out of it? You know, how much can you sell it for? Because he began to feel his land, as Mother Earth, as nurturing. And the Aboriginal people of it, excuse me, they came back, to be on their ancestral spirit land. And I think there's something in that. And I just want to mention your wife, who I'm very grateful for bringing you yoga. And I believe that she's the First Nations Indigenous person of the Americas, of Canada.
That's right. Her mother has roots to our native people. Exactly. Yeah. She's a wonderful lady, Mark. She's got a lot of, I don't know what you call it. This is an example. When she goes hunting really quietly and looks, and me, I just crash through the bush. Yeah, I made that up, but that's she knows things, all right. So I'm lucky to have her. Yeah.
Well, I do want to point out, Neil, that you started to feel your land and the animals on your land as life that is nurturing. And you began to feel your role as a farmer and the whole enterprise as one of participation in the nurturing force and source that is Mother Earth.
Well, I think the more that you practice farming like that, probably the better it is for the land. It's probably better for the plants and the animals, which makes it better for the consumer. So if we can continue like that, I think it's good for everybody. The consumer is asking for food or to be grown in a different, in a kind of a sustainable fashion. I know that's a kind of a hard word to figure out, but in a way that will keep the land at least as good as it is. And that's what the consumer is wanting. And I think that farmers will have to, raise their crops in that fashion also. And it's not all about yield and so on. just quickly, one of the three things that I believe to make a good farmer is the triple bottom line. And just simply what it is so you have to make enough money to make a living. You know, if you don't, that's why these depressions come and so on. So it's money. It's looking after the land. So it's ecology. So you always have to have the soil in good enough shape to give, for the next generation, so on. And the last is culturally. So that's the people, that's the community, that's all of that. So those three things are really important. And so, I don't know, that's what I think about anyways.
Well, thank you, Neil. And I hope that this dialogue with you, this one right now, but your dialogue with your own community and farmers around the world will give to people what the wisdom traditions have given to you. That is your own actual practice, your real yoga for real people, your participation in the given reality, the force that is life itself.
And it's not complicated, Mark. Anybody can do it. It's not as if, you know, you're going to have to study for years and all that kind of stuff. It's out there. I mean, they can take an online course from you, Mark, or start by themselves. However, you know, it's better to do it with a teacher, don't you think? But it's not complicated.
Yeah, there's, you know, Jessica Cha, I had this book I was doing for him. I was calling it The Art of Yoga. And one day we were walking on the beach. By the way, he used to say to me, "Is there anything? Did I have any questions, or shall we gossip? Or shall we go for a walk on the beach?" You know, indicating
I like that.
Yeah, the priority of relationship itself. And that he called this the teacher-student friendship, no more than a friend, no less than a friend, equals in mutual affection to each other. He called that the heart of yoga.
Yeah.
And then he said, "I've got the name of the book. It's The Heart of Yoga." Subtitled Developing a Personal Practice. So, I know my teachers are sort of very happy with you because they wanted to see yoga go to all the lands and all the people. You know, that prior to, male orthodoxy, where you had a senior authority and arbitrary practices that were mainly about denial of life and denial of the feminine and denial of Mother Nature, of the land, of the animal kingdom, etc., etc. They saw the problem in this and want all the people of all the world to have the pre-doctrinal yogas of participation in the given reality. And this is certainly what has happened in your life. And I just want to ask you, you're what wonderful woman of First Nation, Indigenous sensitivities and values. She sent her white farmer beloved to yoga. And I remember you saying to me that you were suffering, you called it fallen drawers disease.
It's called furniture. It's called furniture disease.
It's
where your drawer. It's where your drawers fall. No, it's where your stomach falls into your drawers. I guess that's it.
Yeah, right. Well, you fall downwards.
That's right.
Maybe the tummy gets too big and you start falling down and your chest gets sunken, right? And
that's right.
These stories of you working on the farm, resuscitating a calf with mouth, like, my God, it was mind-blowing. But the stress of that, and in the winter of Canada, oh my God, and going on and on and on. The one who is nurturing must be nurtured. So in came along yoga for you, and you did a few simple things: inhale, exhale.
Right.
Believe how simple it was. And
right, I still do that.
Yes. You said to me that the fallen drawers disease or the furniture disease, whatever you call it, it began to turn around.
Yeah.
You began to feel something different and have a different, even posture, alignment in the right. And
I just remembered what that was. It's called furniture disease. It's when your chest falls into your drawers.
right.
That's right.
And you were suffering that.
Anyway,
Neil, describe what it was like for you when you discovered in Ojai this technology of the actual practice and you began to do it. What did you discover there? What did you feel?
I felt kind of light. Isn't that a funny thing to say? That I never even thought of it, but a lightness.
Yeah.
Huh, believe it or not, I just thought of that now. I felt my mind was, I guess, more focused. I guess I felt more comfortable maybe with myself, with and the world. I guess other people, that kind of stuff. We ate really well when we were in Ojai. I think that was good for us at the same time, and we didn't have a schedule so that we got so tired, that we couldn't wait to leave and go to our rooms. In fact, it was the other way around. We felt comfortable with each other. So you know what I mean? I felt good.
And that this practice of receiving the inhale, of merging the inhale with the exhale of strength that is receptive through this asana, this moving and breathing. This was a specific realization for you, wasn't it?
It was specific. I've taken other yoga and I appreciated all that I learned. But this one was all right. I'll have to admit it was all right. I can't really explain it, but like I tell you, we talked a lot, when we were doing our studies, and that was important too. And so I learned a lot about, your teachings, and then of course the asana, the physical part of it, just threaded in. And I think the thing I like mostly about yours, Mark, is that it wasn't necessarily complicated. Like a lot of it was, let your breath move your body. I've never really heard that before, but that's kind of the way it is. If you're breathing a little bit too fast, if you're not comfortable, it means you have to kind of slow down. And so your breathing is a big part of your yoga. And that's one thing I really learned from you. And of course, like you, going back to the calves again, you could see calves that were breathing, slowly. You knew right away that they were healthy. If you saw that they were kind of either panting or, or their posture was in a bad spot, you knew that something was wrong with them. And we're the same, so if our breath is even and smooth, likely you're in a good both frame of mind and probably physically you're, in a pretty good spot. That's what worries me about this crazy COVID, is it affects your lungs, but that's another story also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think in this time of the COVID pandemic, whether we were able to handle it with vaccinations or not, I think, and whether we have the virus or not, we all need to enhance our health with our breath.
Yeah.
To
Absolutely.
To empty the lung, to empty what is full, and then fill what is empty.
That's right.
To release what is old, to receive what is new. It's very simple, you might even say, primordial, pre-doctrinal practice, and
Exactly.
the in Latin, in Rome and early Christianity, they said the breath is spirit, and the word for breath is actually spirit, spiritus. And my
Oh
teacher,
yeah.
Yogi, would say that the spirit means breath, no more, no less. This is,
Is that right?
yeah, this is each person's participation in the power of life that we might call spirit, that we might call
Mm.
God. And it's for people of all faiths, including uh, Christians. This is their whole body prayer to life, their whole body prayer to God,
Nice.
whole body prayer to Christ, very much so. And that relieves the burden, that gives people access to intimacy with what life actually is, to reality itself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is what you're holding and what you've discovered in yourself. And we might be before our time, Neil, because there's a huge job to be done. But, thank you for sharing this job with me.
Yeah.
What you're doing.
Yeah. I know you've mentioned, that, go out and teach it to other people. I'm afraid that I haven't been as good at doing that as I should, but I most certainly have got a good practice, and I'm not afraid of actually, letting people know that yoga wouldn't be a bad thing to try. In other words, I don't know if you're leading by example or what, but I truly believe that it can help anybody.
Yeah, well,
I still remember. Yeah.
You said it yourself. You're listening to the people, and you are practicing yourself, and they are starting
Right.
to get curious about what it is that you have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I feel kind of guilty not
Oh,
taking it up, but I, I don't know. Maybe it's an excuse. I'm not sure, but like when you're farming, there's just not a whole lot more other stuff. I'll just decline that one. Somebody was trying to call me crop insurance.
perhaps someone wanting a yoga lesson calling in.
Yeah. I'll mention that to her. Where was I now? I can't remember. I lost my train of thought, Mark.
Well, just, you were saying you were feeling guilty because you feel like you could be teaching a little more in your local community. I know you teach here and there, to family and friends, and it's just a natural thing. And yoga teaching is very natural. It's not it's just the flow of life itself, and it must occur naturally. It's so far in this world, there's this sort of pathology of everyone wanting to be a teacher. Everyone wants to be wise and tell others how to live their life. You sit next to a drunk on a park bench drinking a bottle of something in a brown paper bag. The drunk wants to start telling you how to live your life.
Yeah.
It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
It's how people protect themselves from social anxiety by controlling their circumstance by being a teacher. So all that aside, teaching just comes naturally in its own time through your own practice and your own caring of people and your love of people and the desire to nurture people, And Neil, you've described that so perfectly in your own case. You're a very busy farmer with a huge farm, and you've only just sort of stumbled into yoga, into daily practice in the last few years. But you've described a process that will inevitably lead to you being a teacher.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you feel a little bit guilty, because there's this little push, you know, maybe a little push right now, you know, from my teachers, little push to Neil Boyd. Come on, Neil. Those farmers need help. You know?
Well, I remember you telling me one time, when should you start teaching? I think this is what you said. Somebody said anyway, and it's when somebody asks to be taught, something like that.
Acharya said that.
Okay, I see. Yeah. So maybe I better pay attention.
Yeah. Well, you're setting the groundwork that people will know that they can ask, you see.
Well, I hope so. Yeah, I think so.
You're not being shy about it. You tell people about yoga, you tell people about your own experience, and you care about people and you listen to them. And at some point, you might just have a little card saying, you know, private yoga instruction down at the farm, you know, or a little website, you know, local to your town, help for farmers and workers.
Let's call it Farmer Flow.
Farmer Flow. There you go.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and we've set the scene where it won't be so weird in the world. But you know,
well,
Neil,
that's true. Yeah. For
regular society, yoga is still, you know, it's kind of a weird thing. I was watching a wonderful English comedy. It's called Afterlife with Ricky Gervais, the comedian. And he's playing himself, you know, and he's a regular guy and he's having troubles in life. And his son, his brother or somebody says, come to Zen and yoga with me. And he gets, you know, the media version of what yoga is. And it's really weird and it's really distasteful, of some dude who's got putting on all the spiritual language and the flowery nonsense, you know, like being bossy and being an important person in the yoga room, you know. And, you know, it was just interesting to me is that has how the world perceives yoga still.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's another famous video, you can see it, of Elvis Presley does yoga. And it's like Elvis is just not interested in this bullshit, you know, and he mocks it. You know? So
I guess so.
That's how the world perceives it.
Yeah.
And we might
it's a bit of a
through that time into something that is more culturally sincere, something more, you know, more intellectually, with more intellectual integrity and so forth, you know.
Right.
And I think that's the time we're in.
Yeah, I think that people are still looking for it as a physical practice, but maybe that's okay, because I mean, I went through that too, and then you find out that it's actually more than physical practice. You know, like I can almost visualize something like if I did start to teach, and maybe one-on-one or whatever, to a farmer at my own age, you know, that kind of stuff. I'd probably start the same way you taught me, you know, like breath work and a little bit of physical movement, and then, you know, just take it easy, sit down for a while, you know, and talk, and then maybe kind of go from there, the next lesson a little bit farther, you know, and just see what that person would like, you know. I think that, and then pretty soon, you know, I visualize this, you know, them saying, well, geez, sweetie, I gotta go to a yoga class, you know, and he's not feeling bad about it, you know, that he's actually kind of looking forward to it, and not even looking forward to seeing really what he's going to learn or poses, that kind of stuff, but just a good feeling of being there, kind of like going to curling or, you know, or hockey practice, you know what I mean? But that same kind of a feeling, it's a connection, you know, that's the way I would like to be able to do something like that, not oh gee, you know what, I yesterday I did yoga and I'm pretty sore, you know, I'm kind of stiff today, but that's not really what I intend, or you know what I mean, eh?
Yeah no, like you're very qualified to do this, Neil, and I think you're right. Just you start off with a few tame friends, you know, like a farming friend that you can experiment on. And Christian Acharya say you learn to teach by actually teaching. It's the only way to learn. And you have to feel free to make mistakes. because then you correct the mistakes, like a musician
That's
corrects
exactly.
mistakes, and you learn how to
That's
play your instrument.
yeah.
You learn how to teach
Yeah.
by actually teaching. So at some
Yeah.
point you have to jump in. And
Yeah, I think you become a probably even more experienced yogi or person like that when you start to teach, don't you? Like, I mean, you
exactly.
would know that, but
Yeah.
because yoga is the best way. I mean, being a teacher is the best way to learn. I've heard that. That's good.
And you would also, the question, who can teach yoga? When should you teach yoga? Answer, when you're asked to. But two,
Yeah.
who can teach yoga? And the answer is one who has a good teacher themselves, one who practices
Right.
themselves, and one who cares about others. Guess who fits that qualification? Those. Sorry.
Well, I remember. Busted.
I'm going to put a big yoga certificate in the mail. Neil Boyd, qualified, 1,000 hours of personal practice.
Qualified. Put that on my truck, my back. Put that on my back truck window, eh?
Yeah, neilboydyoga.com.
Right beside my lariat.
Farmeryoga.com. I don't know, something. I'll develop a plan for you.
Yeah, I'll wait. Maybe Rosalind, she's a good artist too or something.
Yeah, I'll ask her. But anyway, as we started this conversation, these relationships that you form with your student, it's a siddhi, it's a gift. It just happens. You can't make it happen. You can't be an important person and go out and get your students. They have to come. They have to be willing to come. And when they do come, it's very, very natural. It's just friendship itself, and it arises. And then once it's there forever. Nobody can break it, It's like beyond conditions, beyond circumstance. It's something of the heart, It's something a little bit mystical, certainly beautiful. And there is such a phenomenon, you see, in the human life that's scarce. It's not known about too much. Or sometimes if it's known, it's turned into conventional religion of hierarchy and, the perfect person, as if everybody else is not perfect. It's not about any of that. It's an actual relationship of actual friendship, is very dear to us. And I think there will already be people in your world that are like that, where you have a sweet affection that is beyond circumstance and conditions. Like maybe,
I think everybody.
Maybe with your daughter, for example, who you sent to us in Ojai one year. I mean, that's probably that's a relationship where you could practice your teaching skills, for example. Give her a little practice. She'll understand what you're doing.
Yeah, with her, you just have to just practice in the same room, and she has probably her own practice, and we could just practice asana together at the same time, that kind of stuff. Yeah,
it would be a good starting point.
She's got it. Yeah, it would be actually, and she has stayed her interest in yoga. I know that her little boy plays on a yoga mat, and she's a busy lady, but I'm so glad that she was able to that you were able to give her a practice also.
Well, that's
unfortunate, Mark, we haven't been able to see her because she's on.
I know, I understand. Yeah. Neil, that was beautiful fatherhood, that you sent your daughter to get an authentic yoga practice. You sent her in her approaching motherhood, and you sent her out of father love. And it's also a testament of your great, love and faith in me and the Guru Parampara, that you would send your own daughter, put her in safe hands.
Yeah, Yeah, so it's pretty lucky that you were able, or you guys were able to meet in Ojai because it's not that far away.
Yeah, I know.
So it got,
Well, you're a great yogi, Neil. And thank you so much for hanging out with me for a while here today. And
it was
thank you
fun.
for talking to the people and giving them your description of yoga and your experience from your side of the fence. You know, we're city, yeah,
That's right.
from your side of the fence, farmer.
Maybe some people can, maybe some people can reach through the fence and start grazing on the other side. What do you think?
Yeah, exactly. Merging
Like a horse does too.
rural,
Yeah, that's right.
rural and urban as one family. Now, there's a hope for the
That's
United
it.
States.
Yeah. Everywhere, yeah. Yeah, I like it.
Just thanks so much, Neil. It's always great crossing over from the US into Canada, and you find there is in Canada there's some sort of like cultural social cooperation, that's there a little bit more, you know. And it's always very heartening to make that trip from US to Canada. And it's always, you know what I'm talking about?
I didn't know well, I didn't know that you were in Canada.
No,
Is that what you mean?
I've gone,
Oh,
Toronto, Vancouver,
uh-huh.
just going up from
I see.
California up to Vancouver,
Yeah,
or from New
uh-huh.
York to Toronto. And there's always some sort of,
Uh-huh.
charm there. All the best musicians come
Mhm.
from Canada, you know that, like that. Young,
Yeah, from they're from Manitoba.
yeah, the
Seems
band,
like,
Robbie
which hasn't got
Robertson,
very many people.
yeah,
Yeah, then
Johnny Mitchell,
uh, Bachman Turner Overdrive. Yeah,
yeah,
that's right.
and all the best yogi farmers, they come from Canada, it seems.
We'll send more down. How's that?
Yeah, please do. We need help down in the US.
Okay.
Need help. Send
Yeah.
help.
Oh,
Send yoga teachers.
yeah.
All right, Neil, thank you so much, man.
Okay. It's really been good talking to you. Thanks for this, Mark.
Yeah,
And thanks for all that you do. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and thanks for all you do. Love you
Pardon
very
me?
much.
Yeah. Love you, Mark.